if this will do anything. Hello. So today we're talking about Kim Addonizio, one of my favorite poets. This is going to take some getting used to for me. I think. Am I not a pro? Because I think I'm going to want it like right up against my freaking mouth. Do you like this? Yeah. You're in. It's a little bit too bright. Okay. Hello. It doesn't feel natural. I feel forced. I feel like I'm being forced into this. Okay? But I'm not. This was my idea. Okay. Kim, otherwise known as Ayakash's mom, of You're the Worst fame. This is one of my favorite books of poems. I return to this book all the time. Kim Addonizio is one of those poets for me. I just like how she sees the world. So this book is called What Is This Thing Called Love? I've had it forever. I think maybe it was one of the first poetry books I bought. I don't know if that's true, but I've just had it for so long. So, what poem do I even want to read? I was thinking, okay, so I feel like it's kind of obvious to read the first poem in a book, but this poem, I think about the first line of this poem like all the time. Like I'll be waiting in line at the grocery store and I'll just think about it. It really sticks with you. So it's called First Kiss. And here's what it looks like. And I'm going to figure out, I want to like put a picture of the poem up on the screen next to me as I go through it and my notes. Because I think that if I was watching something like this, I would want that. I think that's interesting. It's like interactive. I'm like letting you because I'm going to be taking notes and talking about it, and it's just like easy. It's just nice if you guys can also see it. But I'm not going to do it's going to like right there. I'm not going to do like camera. That's too much. I have my phone. We're on a budget. We're recording this in GarageBand for fuck's sake. Like, come on. All right, this is called First Kiss. Afterwards, you had that drunk, drugged look my daughter used to get when she had to let go of my nipple, her mouth gone slack and her eyes turned vague and filmy, as though behind them the milk was rising up to fill her whole head, that would loll on the small white stalk of her neck, so I would have to hold her closer, amazed at the sheer power of satiety, which was nothing like the needing to be fed, the wild flailing and crying until she fastened herself to me and made the seal tight between us, and sucked, drawing the liquid down and out of my body. No, this was the crowning moment, this giving of herself, knowing she could show me how helpless she was. That's what I saw. That night, when you pulled your mouth from mine and leaned back against a chain link fence in front of a burned out church. A man who was going to be that vulnerable, that easy, and impossible to hurt. Kim! Like, what? Kim. Come on. And can you believe this poem's about Ayakash of The Boys and You're the Worst fame? Ayakash, one of my favorite poems in the world, is about your mom breastfeeding you. I'm sorry. I'm being weird, right? Okay, sorry. I'm screaming into the mic. I'm screaming into the mic. Okay. God, I love this poem. I I think about this poem whenever I have a first kiss. I think about this poem, just the, Kim Addonizio does this where, in her poetry, where she'll kind of thrust you into an environment, and she'll thrust you into an environment to give you an idea of like another situation. So in this poem, she's comparing the act of a first kiss is as intimate and vulnerable as a mother breastfeeding her child. Those two ideas of breastfeeding your baby and a first kiss, entwining them together, I think it really speaks to the intimacy of both moments and how vulnerable either party has to be. In one instance, there's two people kissing, and like when you have a first kiss with someone, it's almost as if you are signing a contract with them that we might hurt each other. You know, it is an act of profound vulnerability. Whereas with a mother and her baby, like the fragility of the baby, the fragility of that bond, but at the same time, like, okay, let's go through it. Afterwards, you had that drunk, drugged look my daughter used to get. When she had let go of my nipple, she had let go. So the drunk, drugged look comes after the thing that satisfied. So there was hunger before, right? There was hunger before the kiss. There was hunger before the feeding. And now that the kiss has happened, there is satisfaction. There is satiety. The power of satiety, right? The power of being satisfied in a moment. Because what she's describing here is simply the moment after a first kiss is a moment. It's gone like that because then because then it's over. Because it's only a moment. But there is something to that, comparing, it's almost like they have the same, they're both equally as sacred, you know, sacred to the speaker, but I think also sacred to the human experience. Do you know what is, right? I think I'm onto something. Okay, so her mouth gone slack and her eyes turned vague and filmy, as though behind them the milk was rising up to fill her whole head that would loll on the small. Okay, and so I underlined this. Well, first, vague and filmy, I think just really good words to describe, like, when you're fully satisfied, you're kind of like checked out in a way. You're kind of like existing in this alternate space of contentedness. As though behind them the milk was rising up to fill her whole head. And so I like the internal rhyme here of lull and small, the small white stalk of her neck. I think stalk to show how fragile the neck is, how fragile this thing is. So I would have to hold her closer, amazed at the sheer power of satiety. Which was nothing, now satiety, nothing like the needing to be fed. This is the hunger. The wild flailing and crying until she fastened herself to me. Flailing and crying until she fastened herself to me and made the seal tight between us. This is the contract kind of that I was talking about, of when between like two people who share a first kiss, it's like you're signing a contract that now we're in some way bound to each other. Now and like it's either going to, the seal's either going to break or not. So it's interesting. It's like this, it really lends itself to all these beautiful corresponding or complementary images, even the wild flailing and crying before the wild flailing and crying of hunger, of hunger, of needing, right? And I think of the times that I have wailed and cried over needing to be loved, needing to be wanted. Who hasn't, right? And so that also, like, when we wail and we cry, like the hunger to be loved, the hunger, the desire to be the object of someone's affections, to be desired, to love, like that is all very real and powerful, and to have that satisfied, it's like the hunger to be loved is like that of a baby needing to be fed. It doesn't get better than this. It's awesome. I love poetry. Until she fastened herself to me and made the seal tight between us and sucked, drawing the liquid down and out of my body. And so now there's this, made the seal tight between us and sucked, drawing the liquid down and out of my body. Like there comes this dynamic, because it is like a back and forth. There's the speaker and these other people in the poem, and there is kind of like a back and forth between a mother and a child and two partners with the other, right? But it's also like she says, drawing the liquid down and out of my body. So the speaker is giving something to her child. Something is being given, something is being taken. But then she says, out of my body, no, this. And this is italicized. So this, she's making it a point. So we like recognize this. This was the crowning moment. This giving of herself. Knowing she could show me how helpless she was. And that, because what's happening is the speaker is giving her body to her baby, that's what mothers do. And to view that as the baby giving herself to the mother, it's like it's like I'm giving her something so she can live, but she's giving me something as well, which is her vulnerability, which is her trust, which is that she only has me. And so there is that dynamic. This, I don't know. I think it's beautiful. And then to compare that when someone again, the vulnerability of kissing someone for the first time, like that, it is that vulnerable. It is that intimate. And then she says, that's what I saw that night when you pulled your mouth from mine, leaned back against a chain link fence. And I love this. You can almost hear, like in my head, I can hear it. I can hear the chain link fence, the sound of the chain link fence. He leans back against the chain link fence in front of a burned out church. And this is the other thing, is that the burned out church, God, just a line. It's like the poem could have been first kiss in front of a burned out church, but it wasn't. That's just a detail. And I'm sure when it was happening, because this is how I think, I'm sure that when it was happening, she was like, wow, yeah, first kiss in front of a burned out church. She leans back again. Like, she's like, when you write, you like kind of log these details away for later. And it's just interesting to collect details like that. And then the poem becomes about something else entirely, which is about the capacity, I think, the capacity for intimacy that two people can share. Even like through something just like a first kiss, or to feed someone else. And I even have in my notes here, a first kiss is as intimate / cherished as a mother breastfeeding her child. In front of a burned out church, a man who is going to be that vulnerable, that easy, and impossible to hurt. Okay, internal rhyme with church and hurt. Love that. I said rhyme. Love that. And then when I first read this, the first few times I read this poem, I, having been a lover scorned, a woman scorned at various points in my life, when I read this, a man who's going to be that vulnerable, that easy, and impossible to hurt, I read that and I think that person can't be hurt, you know? That person is being vulnerable with me, and yet still I will not be the one to hurt them. They will hurt me. That is the speech of a wounded woman. Reading this again recently, the meaning kind of shifted, and this is what's interesting about poetry, is that this is why I like to return to poems over the years, is because I will notice different things, recognize different things, and connect with certain lines differently than previous reads, which I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's also related to this notion of nothing you write is ever really finished. And nothing you write is ever done being interpreted, and you're never done discovering stuff in your writing and other people's. So easy and impossible to hurt. That, to me, when I read that, I was like, oh, the speaker, is saying, I could never hurt this. This person will be impossible for me to hurt. This person is being as vulnerable with me as my child. I could never hurt this person. And so it becomes less like a lover scorned or a lover anticipating being hurt, but it becomes something much softer, gentler. And I think just more, it's more grounded in intimacy and love. And this human promise that we make to each other that we will care for the other person. But also it's not without something being lost. You know, it's not without some kind of sacrifice or some kind of risk. So there's that. I love that poem. I love that poem. I think about her. I think about you all the time. So that was First Kiss from Kim Addonizio's What Is This Thing Called Love? From W.W. Norton. Published 2004. Damn. Over 20 years ago. Oh, I like her dedication. I love the dedications. For Robert. Lightning twice. Isn't that nice? Okay. So that was that. Yeah. Let's see how that goes.